Greetings to all of you. You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary, and welcome into my top 10 albums of the year. 2022 was another remarkable year for music, and in turn, a great year for the Beat Sessions. We reviewed hundreds of records here at the channel, and while it's been kind of difficult over the last few weeks, it's been a ton of fun revisiting all of these records and narrowing it down to what I think were not just the 10 best records of the year, but also the 10 best vinyl packages, the 10 best records that just came together on the wax perfectly. So without further ado, let's cut to the chase and jump right into this thing, starting with number 10 and Beach House, Once Twice Melody. There's a lot to admire about the 8th studio album from the duo of Victoria Legrand and Alex Scally, but there's two main features of this record that made it stand out to me, that landed it in my top 10. The first is the layout of the record. 18 tracks, 84 minutes. I love that you can just press play and immerse yourself in this thing if you desire to do so. Or depending on your mood, it's split into chapters, and those chapters all hold up really well on their own, and I think can be listened to in any order, frankly. I dig that about the record. The second thing is the growth that you see from Victoria and Alex. And I'm not going to argue that this is necessarily their best record, but you listen to Once Twice Melody, and the compositions are so engaging. They're so enriching and fun to listen to, exciting with the twists and turns and the instrumentation, but you're still listening to Beach House. It's amazing to see the way that these two have fine-tuned their sound. It's almost kind of like watching Picasso perfect the Cubist style, or authors like James Joyce or Virginia Woolf perfecting that stream of consciousness narrative style. It really is a pleasure to watch and to listen to these guys do their thing, and it makes me excited for future music. Coming in at number 9 is Lamb Chop with the Bible. And for almost 3 decades, Kurt Wagner has been the maestro of this Nashville outfit, working with a lineup of musicians that is constantly changing in order to capture a different sound on every single record. I dig that about the guy. I really enjoy his approach to the songwriting process. Teaming up with pianist Andrew Broder and producer Ryan Olson on this record, I love Kurt, and no matter what he's doing or who he's working with, and the way that he's always capturing the evolving definition of what Americana is, both thematically and musically. This record, the music is beautiful. There's funky, upbeat stuff. There's lush orchestral arrangements. There's just minimal piano balladry. This thing is all over the place in all the right ways, and it comes together beautifully. What I really dig about the music is the way that it is grounded in jazz and classic pop, but there's so many different contemporary elements that Kurt is working in, electronic elements, even a little bit of auto-tune in the vocals. And there's some people that I've heard they've been put off by this, and I understand that. But what I dig about it, you talk about the thematic side of this record. The Bible really captures the zeitgeist of the last few years, I feel. And it really also it explores the concept of aging and death and the darkness that can go along with that. And so this might be the darkest Lamb Chop album that is out there. And I think that contrast of cold electronic elements and some of that stuff that seems a little outside of what Kurt has done originally in the last, 30 years or so really resonates with me. And I think it works well given what's gone on, given the times, and given the way that he likes to move his music forward. I think this album is brilliantly done, and it's a very special arrangement of songs. Coming in at number 8 is Black Midi with Hellfire. This record is the most in-your-face listening experience of 2022. I absolutely love it. For 40 minutes, this album is unrelenting. And it's another record I really came to admire because I dig the way that their sound is rooted in jazz. Now, there's no denying that this is a rock and roll experience. Progressive rock, experimental rock, prog rock, all these things fully on display. But you listen to these compositions, they're frenzied, they're chaotic. There's moments where some of these songs feel like they're almost even going to dissolve. And it's that jazz idiom. It's finding form in the chaos, and the precision, the just quality of the musicianship on display from these 3 guys and the other 2 individuals that they pull in to fill out the saxophone and other synth elements. It's just truly remarkable. You can tell that this unit has been playing together since they were teenagers, and it makes me really excited for the future of this band. After their 3rd record, just lots of potential here. Jordy Greep, great songwriter as well. I really dig his perspective. He's witty, he's insightful. Politics, social issues, it's all on the table, and he's not shy about bringing the thunder with all of it. Coming in at number 7 on the list is Soccer Mommy with Sometimes Forever. Another up and coming artist who dropped their third studio album this year, Sophie Allison has excelled under the moniker of Soccer Mommy. Really dig the style of alternative rock and roll that she is throwing down. Deeply rooted in that 90s sound. I hear artists like PJ Harvey, Liz Phair, Sheryl Crow, but you listen to this record over and over again, and she's reaching back so much further, all the way back to artists like Janis Joplin and Grace Slick. But I hear artists like Susie Sue, Pat Benatar, she just runs the gamut with her sound. Even contemporary artists like Karen O, St. Vincent, really not just paying homage to these artists, but taking inspiration from their style and sound and truly making it her own. That is what I love about this record, is that there's so much sound that you're going to recognize, so much sound that seems familiar, but it's all her own. And I love that. And thematically, I really dig the record, the way it tackles the concept of reaching your goals and finding happiness, but still having to deal with life, still having to deal with the day to day. I think it's a common misconception in our society. I think people think that, once they reach the finish line, it's all good. And that's just not the way that life works. Sophie, reaching the height of her popularity at the moment, really discovering that. And I love her honest sentiment and the way that she just discusses and explores that issue on this record. Coming in at number 6 is Editors with EBM. This is a band that I fell out of touch with in the last decade, and I'm really glad I had an opportunity to reconnect with them on this record. In preparing for this review, I revisited the previous 3 albums, and I gotta say, I still feel that they do not capture the magic of this band's first 3 albums. But it was great to see the evolution of the sound and where it's at currently. I gotta admit, initially I was turned off with the shift because it just felt like there was such an oversaturation of the sound, and I really enjoy the post-punk feel of their early records. But with the addition of Blank Mass, their sound is stunning, in my opinion now. I really think that they have fine-tuned where they've wanted to be. And all 9 of these songs, I've heard multiple people describe them as bangers, and they are. I mean, really just high energy. And Tom Smith, he's just as good as ever. The man's voice is stunning, in my opinion. I love the melodies that he creates, and it's just, the opener, Heart Attack, when he sings a line like, "No one will love you more than I do, I can promise you that." That line just carries so much more weight when he sings it, the cadence of his voice. It's gorgeous. Absolutely love this record. Coming in at number 5 is Spoon with Lucifer on the Sofa. 3 decades and 10 studio albums into this thing, I think a lot of people would agree that Britt Daniel and Spoon are one of the most brilliant and consistent musical outfits out there. Not just in rock and roll, music in general. I really dig Britt, what he does as far as the melodies, the hooks that he creates, just so funky. They're so fresh. Even within that framework, you can tell when you're listening to a Spoon record, but their brilliance lies in the way that they constantly find ways to reinvent themselves. And I'll argue that the other thing that makes their music so exciting, no matter what they're doing on a record, call it indie rock, call it alternative, call it what you will, but at the heart of all of their music is just rock and roll. And this album in particular, Lucifer on the Sofa, I love the rock and roll element. A lot of blues here as well, kicking off with that cover, Held, Bill Callahan. I mean, it is an excellent way to open up this record. And the rest of the album, the other 9 songs, just phenomenal. This thing, it's ideal, in my opinion, as far as what I think a record should be. Almost a 40-minute runtime, 10 solid tracks, no filler, just gold from start to finish. Easily one of the best records of the year. Coming in at number 4 is Suede with Autofiction. Known as the London Suede Stateside, this band is my favorite discovery of 2022. And I want to say many thanks to the legion of fans that showed up and suggested your favorite songs, your favorite albums. It made going back and exploring this band's catalog so much fun. Such a cool experience. A band that's been around for over 3 decades, but is brand new to me. And I find them so fascinating, and I've been so in love with this record because this highlights the disparity that exists between the American music market and the rest of the world, in my experience anyway. Growing up when I did, having the resources that were available, the alternative rock stations in Prescott, Arizona, magazines, this was a band that just was overlooked. And especially with, everything focused on Blur and Oasis, by the time the resources were available and I was more into music, these guys had broken up, and the time frame just caused me to miss them. So having this brand new material to start out with and to be able to go back has made just listening to this band such a fun experience. And I want to, the Brit pop thing, I don't see it. I liken this band more to a band like Placebo, almost contemporaries. Placebo started like 5 years after these guys did, but more of a combination of glam rock and post punk versus, especially what Oasis is doing. But I really just, I enjoy this band being at the position that they're in after all this time, the highs and lows, the success, the breakups. It's been a common theme this year, I feel like. These artists finding themselves after all these years and all this experience, just having this freedom, going into the studio with no weight on their shoulders and having a ton of fun making, arguably some of the best music that they've made to date. It's been really cool. I think that Suede, it tops that list for me. Tears for Fears made a great record this year. Bands that have been around for 3, 4, even 5 decades in Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Another example of a great outfit that put out, a not so great record, but also a phenomenal record this year. And so I'm pumped about Suede. I love what this has done as far as my experience with the channel, and being able to interact with so many of you made this just easily one of the top records of the year for me. Coming in at number 3 is Black Country New Road with Ants from Up There. This record is absolutely gorgeous from start to finish, and I just love the, let's call it, alternative Baroque style of music that this band is working with. So many lush textures, so much rich instrumentation. Big band, big outfit. And you listen to what they're doing, and it's hard not to think of a band like Arcade Fire, who also put out a record this year. Rather lackluster. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. And I think that band, the magic is gone. I'll say that as well. And you can disagree with me if you want there, but I think that, I think of an album like The Suburbs, and I think that, what Arcade Fire was able to do on that record, Black Country New Road is doing on Ants from Up There. The spirit of this record is just captivating. It is incredible. This is music that, an album where we're experiencing familiar territory, but you're listening to all of these musicians inject their personality into the sound and make it all their own. And it makes this album fresh. It makes it exciting to listen to. It's also bittersweet as well. Lead singer Isaac Wood left the band right before the release of this record for reasons of mental health. And the door is open, but who's to say if he ever returns? It's unfortunate because this band will not play any of this material without him. But, the number one priority is his mental health, and, certainly wish you well in your future endeavors here at the Beat Sessions. Certainly would love for you to feel comfortable at some point returning to the stage. But if that never happens, then it never happens. It makes me think of Sometimes Forever from Soccer Mommy earlier, that, that idea of the grass is always greener. And it's unfortunate because I think we live in a society where a lot of people are judgmental in this situation, arguing that, hey man, like you had everything, like you reached your goal, you had it, you were there. And it doesn't always lead to happiness. Oftentimes we get to places in our lives and we reach goals and levels of success, and it's where we thought we wanted to be, and it's not necessarily always the case. And so this is, again, a bittersweet experience, but just such a wonderfully rich record. There's so much spirit in it. And again, Isaac, we wish you well in your future endeavors here at the channel. Coming in at number 2, kind of a homer pick, we're looking at the Black Angels, Wilderness of Mirrors. Moderately obsessed with this band to the point of it almost being embarrassing, except I'm not embarrassed because in the 15 years since discovering this band, there just isn't any other outfit that I've encountered whose music strikes me the way that these guys do. Their level of psychedelia, the drive of garage rock, the heavy shoegaze element that's there. There's no other band out there right now that sounds like the Black Angels. And I love that. I love the contemporary heavy style that they've given to sounds, bands like 13th Floor Elevators, the Zombies, the Velvet Underground. It's spectacular watching these guys live. If you've never checked them out, they, more than any other band I think I've ever seen, can just fill out a space to that perfect degree of loud. And on this particular record, they're covering a lot of territory. I know I'm very critical of this typically on the channel, but this is what this band does. Big vinyl packages, double gatefold. They're always mesmerizing. The artwork is incredible to get lost in while you're listening to the record and exploring everything else in the package. Alex Moss, I think he's an incredible singer, incredible frontman. His voice is stunning, and his lyrical prowess, I dig him. I dig his assessment and his criticisms of culture, of politics. He brings the thunder. And I will say, for me personally, the highlight of this record, Stephanie Bailey, driving things on the skins. Just she's always been wonderful, but she just is incredible at this point. And I think that given her performance on this record, she is arguably one of the best drummers out there. Really just pulling everything together and bringing this outfit together in a way on this record that is so much fun. It starts off heavy, it moves into this great psychedelic kind of spiritual journey in the middle, and then, back to a little bit of that heavy feel towards the end. Just a wonderful, complete listening experience. And, no doubt one of the best records of 2022. But the best record of 2022 belongs to Gang of Youths with Angel in Real Time. There were a number of bands and artists who released stellar third studio albums in 2022. It seems only fitting that one of those should find the top spot on my list. And what Gang of Youths did with their third studio album is absolutely extraordinary, both musically and thematically. I love the music on this record. Great alternative and indie rock feel, elements of chamber pop, and so much more going on as well. These compositions navigate a ton of territory. And they move from big soaring moments to quiet moments of minimalism. I love the movement of the songs. Music is really, really quite exceptional on this record. Thematically, though, this record struck me more than anything that I've heard this year. And David Leo Pepe has been very well known for writing personal music. But this record, it explores the death of his father. And then in the aftermath, it explores him discovering his father's second life, discovering all these different things, the fact that he has a second brother, a situation that for, I think, anybody would just be mind-blowing. And the way that he chose to handle the scenario, the way he was just so eloquent about the whole thing. And this record, the way it navigates that amalgamation of emotions, and really digesting the fact that it's okay to feel all of these things and to be upset, to be, curious about, what was going on in in your father's second life, all these different things that might move in and out of your head. And that's the way this album moves. It's incredible. And it's incredible the way that the album comes together with the continuity that it does, musically and thematically as well. I mean, I think the way that David is able to lay out his thoughts in a way that's so approachable for anyone. What I've really been thinking about a lot is, in our society especially, a lot of people tend to idolize celebrities. And when those celebrities make mistakes, and especially when they do something that's especially disappointing, it's funny how many people I find like they take that personal. And it's weird the way that in a lot of ways, and I know the way that I look up to my parents, we idolize them in the same fashion without realizing that they're humans too, and that they make mistakes. And so the way that David chose to embrace his father, and in doing so lovingly, it's arguably one of the most admirable things that I've ever experienced on a record. It really stirred me in a way. And I remember that night so vividly. I remember just thinking about my family. It had been, a number of years because of COVID and all these other things since I'd seen them. And, and I found out recently that my dad was struggling with his health a little bit. And this record really hit me. And I think it hit a lot of people in a very personal way, even though, David's situation isn't that relatable. I don't know too many people who have had to go through that, but it's incredible the way that he was able to digest that and put it out there for all of us to relate to. I think it's what makes him such an incredible up and coming songwriter. And it's what makes this the best album of the year by far. And I hope that you had a chance to enjoy it. Hope you had a chance to enjoy this record as well. Please stay tuned for new album reviews starting Friday of next year in 2023. Really excited for the third season of the Beat Sessions, kicking it off with Keith and MB Lee. We're going to bring lots of great stuff to you next year in 2023. You all enjoy your weekend. Happy New Year. Be safe. Take care of each other. I love you all. This has been the Beat Sessions.